You found enough dragon eggs for me to unlock the portal. Once I've opened it, you can confront the sorceress whenever you're ready. But be careful. She'll be expecting you.
Yet another daredevil adventurer has come to rob our catacombs of loot. Let's just hope you're made of tougher stuff than the last guy. If you can survive the trials of our catacombs and answer my riddle, we will give you a prize befitting your efforts. Here is my riddle. I am a vessel without hinges, lock, or lid. Yet, within my walls, a golden treasure is hid. What am I?
of the annual demolition hovercraft competition is about to begin. There is room for one more contestant, but you'll have to answer a riddle to qualify. The riddle is this. If one dragon can lay one egg in 12 years, how long would it take for 100 dragons to lay 100 eggs? Very impressive. That is correct. Good luck in the demolition hovercraft competition. Was a fierce battle indeed. Please accept this prize for winning the first round. You may now enter the championship round. However, this is an exceedingly dangerous sport. Might I suggest you quit while you're still in one piece? My, such a brave reptile you are. But you'll need much more than bravery to win the championship. Indeed, a battle for the ages. You're the first dragon to win the competition in over 1,000 years. I proudly present you this year's grand prize. You've managed to survive the trials of the catacombs. Now let's find out if your wits are as quick as your feet. Do you remember the riddle? I am a vessel without hinges, lock or lid. Yet within my walls, a golden treasure is hid. What am I? Have you heard that one before? I never thought you'd get it. Very well, a bargain is a bargain. You may have the dragon egg that I was guarding from the sorceress. I've waited 7,000 years for someone to solve that riddle. Now I can finally head off to Seashell Shore to bury some bones.
Dogs with the funny hats put a curse on me just because I shot him in the butt a couple times. He said he turned my tail into a snake. Does it look like a snake to you? It does feel kind of funny, come to think of it. Oh, boy, that dog's gonna bang.
Behind this door lie the 5 deadly trials of King Rover. No one has ever survived all 5. In fact, it is so dangerous that I cannot let you through this first door unless you're able to solve my riddle. Here's the riddle. I follow you wherever you go, but the more of me you take, the more you leave behind. My, you're quite clever for someone with so little fashion sense. You may proceed to the front.
Hello, you must be Spyro. I've heard a lot of people talking about all the things you've done for them. Do you think you could help find my girlfriend Tara? She went off to raid the tomb of the stone golem, but I haven't seen her since. I'd go look inside the tomb myself, but, you know, there's all these scorpions.
Spyro, I bet you're glad to see me. It just happens that I know the password to open the door to the tomb of the stone golem, but it seems to have slipped my mind for the moment, if you know what I mean. Very well then. The password to open the tomb is... Are you ready? Gullible!
Well, look at you, showing up here to raid the tomb after I've done all the hard work. I've spent all day pressing switches and shoving boxes around, and you just waltz in here expecting to claim the treasure? Well, you might as well have it. It's only a lousy egg anyway. haven't seen you in a while. I'm just off for a bit of a walkabout right now. You know, sometimes you just long for the simple, old-fashioned pleasures of yesteryear, don't you?
Training my new pet manta ray to carry the latest technology. Super high impact underwater missile launchers. Wanna ride them and try blasting some sharks? Just watch out for the shark riders. They're carrying the latest JX-5 underwater tracking ammunition. Comrade? Where'd you learn to aim like that? Oh, by the way, Bianca wanted me to give you this egg. She says she accidentally turned it into a woolly mammoth for 5 minutes, but it should still be okay.